Let me tell you, I'm sitting here enjoying this most tender, beautiful, delicious pot roast. It takes a few hours to make, but that's not a problem. It's so well rewarding. A single pot for everything, for the vegetables, for the meat, for the gravy, all of it. Check it out. You're gonna love this recipe. And don't forget to subscribe. Click it now. Click that thumbs up if you like this video. And drop me a comment down there, okay? Folks, let's get into it. All right. Decided to come out to the garden and get some carrots. I think I got some out here. I bring a little spade with me because sometimes they can be disagreeable when it comes to pulling them. I think this one's going to be that way. There we go. All right. Looks like I've got a grouping of them there. A couple of bent ones. That happens sometimes. There we go. Carrots. So, you know, it's always nice to have a big, beautiful garden to grow your vegetables in. And if you've got a little space, consider it. It's not that hard. It sure is rewarding. Oh boy, howdy. I tell you, it was hot in that high tunnel. It's like in the mid 80s outside, and in the high tunnel it's like 100 plus. Anyway, got my carrots in, got the other vegetables here ready to go. Let me do this here. Okay, preheat that. I'm going to be doing simple roast beef. But you know, there's a lot of different ways of doing roast beef, and I like to do one of these a year, and I have shown a lot of different ways. I've shown you how to do something like beef bourguignon. Let me get a pot. All right, and I've also mentioned just how to do a plain chuck roast, also pot roast. Different kinds of cuts of meat make really good roast, but I'll say this, one of my favorites, definitely chuck. Okay, so what I've got here is a big slab of chuck. There's a couple of pounds of it, and I'm going to take this and put it right down in the pot along with its juices. I want everything in there. So this has been wet aged for about a week, and oh yeah, you know, as long as you don't overdo it, wet aging can bring out some remarkable flavors. You don't want there to be an unpleasant odor or anything like that. You just want it to be a little bit darker in color and still have a good beefy smell to it. And that's what we have here. Now also, I need to get a little olive oil down in here and get my vegetables cut and thrown in here. So come over a little closer. We'll take a look at what we're doing here. And this doesn't really require so much a recipe as it is just a formula or a way of doing things. So come on over, I'll show you how to do my roast. Okay, let's get some, that's a big chunk of beef, isn't it? Like that. I just want to get a little olive oil in the bottom. Doesn't have to be a huge amount, but just enough to kind of work around. There we go. Something for that meat to set on. If I can stop being a little bit loud about it, and get that out of the way. There we go. Now, I've got a lot of items here, all of which I'd like to put down into this wonderful roast. But the thing of it is, whole like they are, I don't think it's going to work too good. And these, well, I think if I were to cook the vegetables, as long as I'm going to be cooking that roast, then there wouldn't be much of anything left of them. Okay, so the vegetables I can actually put in a little bit later. Okay, however, there's some of them I want to have in there. That is the oven getting ready. Some of this I do want in there, for instance, my shallots. So I'm just going to go ahead, cut the tips off of those because they're looking a little bit rough. There we go. And we will simply do some nice little rings on these. And this is more for flavor of the whole dish, all right? Less about the shallot, more about what it gives to the dish. All right? And then my garlic. I want the garlic in there now, which means peeling a couple of cloves. All right, so a little garlic to go in there. The carrots, all I'm going to do is just to put those in there. I'm going to cut the top and bottom off of them, and then I'm just going to cut some hearty cuts. You know, pieces like that that I can put down in there with those potatoes. But again, those are going to go in later in the cooking, all right? What goes in now are shallots and garlic. Now the garlic, I'm going to crush it, and I usually use a little firmer blade when I'm crushing garlic. We don't really need to do anything like mincing it or anything like that. The long cook on that will take care of it. Okay? So we have this partially ready. Let's get some salt down in here. And remember, you have a big cut of meat. You can put enough salt in there, okay? Whoops, I want some Worcestershire sauce. And don't want to kill it with it, but I do want just a little bit down in here. And I would say, in the average, no more than 3 tablespoons is just about right. Yeah. Some pepper. Alright, so other things you can put in here. You could put wine in there if you want. You can put some beer in there if you'd like to do that. You can put, let's say some balsamic vinegar does well in these. Soy sauce works well in it. So you've got options here, folks. There's different things you can do, different flavors to go for. But what I'm going to recommend here, I'm just going to add a little water to mine and nothing more. Put a little water down in here. And I don't want to bring the water past about halfway on my roast. However, I started with 2 cups and it looks like I've got, what, a thimble left? Not enough to matter. So yeah, I put about 2 cups in mine. And if you'll notice the pot that I'm using. Folks, this is making a roast, a pot roast, okay? Pick a pot, something that's oven proof. It can be a Dutch oven, it can be cast iron, it can be stainless. As you see, I'm using what's called a stock pot here. Works just fine for this. In the oven. I need to readjust my racks because I'm using a fairly tall pot. Sorry about the noise. All right. In the oven that little jewel goes. Now, this is going to be about a 3-hour cook, all right? So I'm just going to set my timer, and in about an hour and a half, we're going to put the vegetables in there. That's about halfway through. And we'll keep on cooking it. There we go. 3-hour timer set. Well, folks, look. The roast beef, especially a chuck roast like this one, it has a special place in my heart. All right, this is something that we had regularly on Sundays after church. And at some point in my life, I don't remember when it was, I do remember sitting down with Mom and expressing my gratitude about the fact that she prepared these beautiful roast beef dinners for us on Sunday. I mean, after all, we went to church, we had to go through all of that rigmarole, and then she comes home and produces this beautiful roast. Well, she says to me, "Stuart, don't you understand? I didn't do that because I wanted an elegant meal. I did that because I wanted something easy." And I chuckled. She says, the reason I do chuck roast or beef roast on Sundays is because all I have to do is prepare the roast and put it in the oven. We go to church. When we come back, the meat is done. All she had to then do was prepare a couple of side dishes, usually broccoli or something like that, and maybe some mashed potatoes. She'd prepare us a gravy. and we would all sit down and enjoy our dinner. So again, Mom, thank you very much for that. It was very sweet of you to do. And if you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, this truly is an easy out for you. It is a way for you to prepare a wonderful, elegant meal without having to do a lot of work. Now, what I'm doing today does require, of course, cutting up these items and throwing them into the pot halfway through cooking. Oh gee, what a hardship. Yeah, that'll be really tough. Okay, so anyway, there's not really much of any work. It's mostly just, once it's finished cooking, I pull everything out of the pot. I make some gravy with the liquids that are left in there, and that'll just be through using some cornstarch. And then suddenly we're sitting down to a beautiful, well-made meal, and all I had to do was sit on my rear end and wait for it. So please enjoy this recipe. I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to go cool down. Okay, now got a great start on the roast. The cook is coming right along on that, but we're going to be adding in those taters now. All right, and then the carrots. Make sure we got things in there. If you notice, nothing pretty about it. It's just get it all in the pot and be careful how you handle things. The lid goes back on, back in the oven for another hour and a half. Alrighty. Now, matter of giving it time. Normally it's about another hour and a half for a roast that size, but we also just put a whole bunch of stuff in there that isn't hot, okay? Potatoes, carrots, and that is going to bring down the temperature in that pot. It may increase that cooking time. It could be, instead of an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Don't know, but keep an eye on it. And remember, when the meat's fork tender and the fork slides out easily, and those potatoes and carrots are soft, then it's ready. Oh wow, this has been about 3 hours. So I'm going to check it with a fork, literally, okay? So I'll tell you what, come on over, take a look in the pot with me, and we're doing the fork test right now. Alrighty, now we have our roast. It has been cooking away, but that's pretty firm meat. I can tell when I push my fork into that. See there how it's lifting out on the fork, and it slides out, but it does so slowly. The potatoes and carrots are still fairly firm also. Okay, so this can stay in there a while longer. All right, now I'm about 10 minutes before the end of my original 3-hour estimate. I'm going to leave it in there for another 40 minutes, which will be additional 30 minutes to the whole 3-hour cook. And that's anticipated. It was when we added our vegetables, remember? Alrighty, back in the oven. If you're wondering what the temperature was, you can cook this at any temperature you want. I'm cooking it at 350. If you lower that temperature to like 280, you're doing some wonderful braising, and it will increase a lot of the complex flavors. Consider that. Alright, it is now finished cooking. I just finished checking it, but I want to show you the exact same thing that I saw, which is, again, that fork test. Remember when I pushed it in that meat last time and the meat just would not release? But right now the meat is so soft it's tearing on the fork, okay? And so this thing, yeah, it's cooked. Everything else in here is also just buttery, soft, and wonderful. So I'm going to move this to a platter I have here on the side, and then I can make gravy with what's left in the pan rather. That should be a real good choice, huh? Easy to do. Everything done in one pan. Mom was right. It's a very easy meal to do. It's truly a nice thing when you can cook an entire meal in a single pot, and it comes out delicious and elegant. Absolutely something that you totally want. So something else I'm going to be doing, the drippings that I have in this pan here, I'm going to be turning all of that into a beautiful brown gravy. And it's as simple as using a little bit of cornstarch to thicken up our liquids. Now, for the longest time in my life, I used flour, and you can use that for thickening also, but I have learned it's so much easier and faster when you're using cornstarch. Now, it looks like my roast might tear apart. Yep, it tore apart. That's perfectly fine. That's a sign of, oh yeah, it's tender. So, I've lowered the temperature in my oven, and I want to place this entire platter in there with all of that goodness, and we're going to keep it warm that way. And I lowered that oven temperature to 250. Now let's thicken up what we have here. Now, cornstarch, as I mentioned, I have around a half a cup of water here, and I'm just going to take a couple of tablespoons of cornstarch, maybe about 3 there, and dissolve it. Now, I want to tell you something that happens. When you start dissolving this, it's going to hit the bottom, and it's going to turn into what feels like just a solid lump. Just keep working it gently back and forth, and it will actually almost instantly at some point just turn liquid for you. Okay, so that's all we have to do. And it only takes a couple of minutes at the most to achieve this. There it is. And it all just happens all at once. It's really quite interesting. Now I went ahead and put a flame under this so I can pour that in and thicken it right up. Take a look down in the pot. Now, I've got all kinds of stuff down in here, and not a bit of it matters when it comes to making good gravy. Those onions can be in it. The garlic can be in it. Remember, they were just cooked for almost 4 hours. We'll just let that thicken for a moment. And the thing of it is I've got more of that cornstarch already mixed if I need to thicken this a little more. And it doesn't take much to make more of it if I need to. So, isn't that simple, folks? Look how that's getting thick. You can see it already. Just going to let that simmer for a moment. I'm going to use that same spoon that I used for the thickener. I'm going to taste this gravy. Does it need salt, pepper, Worcestershire sauce? What? Tastes very good. You could use a little bit of salt. Okay. And you could use something a little bit sharp. Worcestershire sauce works well for that, so we're going to give it about 2 tablespoons. Now I'm going to use that fork that I tested the roast with. I'm going to taste that gravy again. There we go. Tastes perfect. So it took very little adjustment to get a magnificent product. All right, now we have this beautiful gravy. We just need to get it up into a nice gravy boat. That's just a gravy right there that you want on everything. Absolutely beautiful looking, isn't it? And you know, a little cleanup before it hits the table never hurts. There we go. Oh, my favorite part when I get to enjoy this. I'm telling you now, that meat right there is literally falling apart. Look at that. I'm using the side of the knife and it's just breaking apart. Okay, so it's super tender. Wonderful cook on it. Get me a few of these vegetables. Always like a couple of carrots and a couple of taters. And then I usually drown everything with gravy. And that's what I want to do this time. My usual. That beautiful natural brown gravy that we made, all we had to do was just thicken it up a little bit. And looky there, folks. Gorgeous. Now, for the important part. Oh man. Just buttery, soft, tender. That's one of the things that I like about that chuck roast. Once it gets to the right point, it just turns so super soft. It's filled with flavor from all of the fat, the collagen there. And those vegetables are so very tender. Let me tell you, you want to do a simple dinner, one pot, here it is. And as you noticed, the amount of work was kind of minimal. It's just about waiting long enough. Plain and simple. So you started early enough and it's the perfect meal for you not having to work too hard, but you look great after you're done with it. Give it a try. Thanks for watching. Please do me a favor and check out the links you see below in the description box. Also, thumbs up always helps me out. If you haven't subscribed, do so. Remember to click the bell so you get notifications of when I post. And folks, some ideas and suggestions down there in the comments, well, that's always appreciated. So do me a favor and do that, and have you a good day and enjoy your pot roast. I will. Thanks for watching.